my name is Lauren Zorzi, and I'm here to share with you my literacy inquiry lesson. Before I even get started on my lesson, I just wanted to give you a little background as to why I chose this lesson. So I currently teach third grade, and I've taught third grade now for a few years. I've taught both regular and special ed. In my third grade class currently, I have a lot of varying levels of readers. I have some readers who are on grade level. I have most of my readers are about one grade level behind where they should be, and I actually have a few students who are reading 2 grade levels below, like on a first grade reading level. Because of this, during my guided reading, a lot of my instruction is decoding, it's phonemic awareness, it's listening to the sounds, it's doing word work, and also I'm throwing in, obviously, reading comprehension. Because my students are so focused on reading the words, reading comprehension sometimes is a very difficult task for them. Because of this, I've attended numerous professional development workshops. I've done a lot of research because I'm trying to figure out the disconnect between their reading and their reading comprehension. I currently work in a very low socioeconomic school district, so these students are not coming in with the vocabulary and the experiences that would help them build their background knowledge on different subjects throughout the year. Because of this, that's why I wanted to choose this type of lesson to do for my inquiry research project. So for my lesson, my inquiry question is, in regards to reading comprehension, how much of a role does background knowledge and vocabulary play for students to fully understand and make connections to the text? As I explained earlier, I teach third grade, and this lesson was conducted to the whole classroom of 18 students. They participated in a carousel brainstorming activity. This lesson was used at the beginning of a unit involving animals, so we were working on animals and their habitats, specifically brown bears in this lesson. One of my goals was to activate students' prior knowledge. The other goal was for students to learn new information from others, and for the teacher, for me, to assess their understanding. Students were able to use the information they learned from this activity to assist them throughout the future in our animal unit. The purpose of this lesson is to help students work collaboratively with their peers and to activate their prior knowledge of brown bears through movement and conversation with their classmates. They were able to use the carousel brainstorming strategies to discuss what they knew about brown bears, and they were able to work with their peers. So before I even began, I gave my students a pre-assessment on brown bears. The pre-assessment was comprised of 12 multiple choice questions. Most of my students did not do very well on this, but I had a few students who actually did pretty well, which proves to me that they had some background knowledge on brown bears. After the pre-test was given, I gave instructions on how to complete a carousel brainstorming activity. I had the class separated into 6 groups with 3 students in each group, and these groups were scattered throughout the classroom. I gave each group a different color marker, and they were moving from one center to the next, and they were writing in as much as they knew about the topic on the chart paper. The topics on my chart paper were the appearance of brown bears, bear cubs, diet, hibernation, behavior, and location. When the group got to a station, they would write as much as they knew about the topic on the chart paper, and they would brainstorm together and feed off each other's ideas. This was a time where I got to walk around and informally assess the students to see who had some information and who didn't know too much about the subject. During each round, new ideas were expanded on each of the chart paper, and I encouraged students not to repeat any information that they had on the paper, but to come up with their own facts. Once students got back to the station where they started, I hung the 6 chart papers up on the board, and one by one groups came up and they shared the top 3 ideas from their paper. I allowed the students to share their thinking. I did not evaluate whether or not they got the facts correct at this time. This time I was just kind of informally assessing each group. Finally, I used the chart paper and I scattered it around the room, and I let it stay there for the remainder of the unit of bears when we talked about their habitats and all the information that I wanted to portray to the students. After this activity, there was a bunch of accompanying activities that I could have done. What I chose to do is I used a graphic organizer that looked like this, where the students, as they learned more and more about brown bears and different animals throughout the lesson, this is where they hung up their notes and put their notes and organized their information. I have a bunch of different stories on different independent and instructional reading levels that I did with the students during guided reading. I had some of my higher students who can read on grade level or above grade level, I had them complete a PowerPoint of one of the 6 different topics. I had my students write an informational text using the information that they use about brown bears. So there are a ton of activities that could be used to accompany this lesson. I also, at the end, I gave a post-assessment that mirrored the same questions that the pre-assessment had done in the beginning of my lesson. That post-assessment allowed to inform my direct instruction with some students who needed it, and also made me aware of the students who were catching on and being able to understand the subject. So as a result of creating and planning this little lesson, this mini lesson, I learned that there was definitely an overall effect from those students who had prior knowledge about brown bears on their comprehension. Students that did better on the pre-assessment than others did better also on the post-assessment because they had background knowledge about brown bears. All my students were able to collaborate with their peers and were more willing to share their prior knowledge in a more informal setting. Students were benefited from moving around the classroom and acting as teachers when they came up to share their information. So as a result of doing this, I was pleased to see that there was a connect between the background knowledge and how students performed on the post-assessment. Some questions I still have regarding the different ways that you can informally assess students before you begin a unit and assess their background knowledge, and what other strategies teachers have used to do this. Thank you for listening.